Refaat Alareer was a beloved Palestinian father, teacher, poet, and voice for freedom. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike along with several family members a few weeks after he wrote a poem called If I Must Die. In it, he instructs the reader to make a simple white kite as a symbol of hope for the children of Gaza. So a bunch of us got together and made some kites. You can too.
We used a simple white muslin cotton fabric from the fabric store. It was cheap. You can use anything you have on hand or a simple white sheet if you have one. This is 24 inches by 34 inches long. This is a pattern we made out of cardboard. And we traced it onto the folded fabric coming right out of the roll. That allowed us to cut out a bunch at one time. So we got 4 or 5 out of this one stack.
Okay.
Now Dana's cutting the triangles out of the extra fabric. These triangles are pockets that the bamboo sticks will fit in to hold it all together. And we make different shapes triangles for each corner. Those are pretty easy to trace out. And these are tails that some folks wrote on, and these are lines from the poem.
You have to measure.
The kite. So here I am at the sewing machine. You could do this by hand if you want, but it's a lot faster on the machine. I used a wide zigzag stitch, and sometimes you got to go back and do it 2 or 3 times to make it strong. These pockets need to be strong enough to hold the tension of the bamboo rod. As you can see, it's a pocket now. So I'm using the tail as actually the last pocket of the kite. Again, we want this to be well stitched, so maybe 2 or 3 passes. But it works. Hopefully.
So for the poles and for the cross pieces, you can find some invasive bamboo and cut lengths of it after you've gotten the branches cut off. You'll want to make them longer than the pattern for the kite because you want a lot of tension in order to make that hold into the pockets. The pole can be any size you want. You can also get bamboo at the hardware store if you needed to.
So now we're putting the bamboo into the kite. It's helpful to have 2 people. You want to put a fair amount of tension on this pole, both the long and the short ones, because you want to really stretch the fabric and hold it together. And depending on how stretchy your fabric is, you might want to experiment with the length of these poles. If you're making a bunch, I would definitely recommend doing that before you cut all your bamboo. Otherwise, you could end up with a bunch of pieces that are just too short.
Okay, to attach the pole to the kite, you'll want about 5 feet of pretty good gauge wire. We had some old fencing 7-gauge wire, made it about 5 feet long. And when you cut it, make sure you tape the ends. I use duct tape. You want to tape those ends so there's nothing pokey, either to hurt anybody or to rip your kite. And you're going to then bend one end back about 8 to 10 inches after you've secured your tape, and then twist it together. This is going to be up by where you attach it to the kite, up by where you put it through the kite. And then the other end of it that doesn't have that bend is where you're going to just wrap it around the pole. And you're going to wrap it as tightly as you can, either with your hands or you can use pliers. And wrap, and you just, again, you want this tight. You can double it back on itself a little bit. And then you're going to slide it through where the cross piece is all the way. You're going to bring that all the way up so that the pole is right next to the cross. And then you're just figure 8, wrapping it around and around and around, right next to, but not on the pole. That way the wires are firm enough that they stay in place, whether you have them collapsed so that you can bring them on the bus or stick them in the back of a car. And then when you get to the protest or the office building or the demonstration that you're going to have them, you can open them up, fly them, and free Palestine, bring hope to the world.
These make a really great visual for demonstrations, and they're especially popular with kids. We've made probably close to 100 of them so far, And we've had a couple work parties, as you can see, and invited our friends over to help.
What?
Ours. Okay.
34s and here are the 20s.
It really makes a difference to get together with community sometimes and work on projects like this and be able to bring a little bit more hope into our lives around this issue. If I must die, you must live to tell my story.
To sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail.
So that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself.
Sees the kite, my kite, you made, flying up above, and thinks, for a moment, an angel is there, bringing back love.
If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.